Hi, let's establish a passwordless SSH connection to a remote box. It should look like this. What I'm doing here as root user, I'm connecting from my local box. It's Tuxunto, it's a local Linux box. I connect just with my public key to the remote box, and I'm not prompted for any password, and I'm on the box. Here we go. I'm on the IP address. We want to establish the same for another user and see how the configuration looks like to get this done. I log out again, Control D or exit. And at first we have to create a new user. We want to connect to the remote box. So let's edit user add -m to create a home directory as well. We need the home directory because the SSH keys we are going to create in a minute are being stored in that home directory. So user add m, how do we call it? The user, let's call it pub key user. And for sure I mustn't do that. I have to do it with root permissions. Now we have our pub key user. We can check that by grabbing for pub key in our password file where our users are listed, and we see the user was created. And in order so that the user can connect to whatever box and to log in somewhere, it needs to have a password. So we have to set a password as well for the user, pub key user, and I have to do it with root permissions again. So set the password, whatever password. And now I have on my local box, for the case you wonder, it's a Mac, I'm connected with SSH to a Linux box because I cannot use the Linux box here for the video because the hardware, the microphone and such stuff is just too bad. Just that as side mark. Now we have on this local Linux box the user pub key user, and for sure if the user wants to connect to the remote box, it needs the user needs to be on the remote box, needs to exist there as well. Sorry. If I try to log in to the remote box now, I get a password prompt, but it won't work. This is kind of a security feature from the SSH daemon on the remote box. It just prompts for a password. It doesn't tell us, hey, you cannot connect because you are not existing on my system. So this is just, we will get prompted for forever. So the next step must be to create the same user on the remote box that it will be able to connect to there. Same here, user add pub key user and give him a password. Oh, I didn't type it. Same pub key user. Here we go. Now we have a user on both sides, and now I go out again. Back here, I switch to the user, sudo switch to the user pub key user. Just can't type, sorry. And what we have to do, we have to create by ssh-keygen we have to generate a public-private key pair. Enter the file where it will be saved. So I take the default location. It's always in the home user.ssh directory and in there. That's common practice. And if you give here at this point a passphrase, you will be prompted not for the password in future, but for the passphrase all the time. For getting rid of that, you can use an SSH agent. Start it when your system comes up and gives the agent a passphrase, and then the agent will take care every time you log into somewhere to enter the passphrase for you. But this is not part of this video. So to get rid of that, I just leave the passphrase empty and hit 2 times enter. Now we find in an SSH directory this key pair. This is a public key and this is a private key. The private key mustn't get to someone else. It's just for you. And this is why you have just read-write permissions on this file, just for the user, just for yourself. And the public key is world readable because you need the public key to place on the remote box, and by this public key you are being authenticated. And it looks like this. Now you could copy this one this way, connect to the remote box, SSH, what was the IP address? Let's look up the IP. It's this one. The first time, this is because the user connects the first time with his profile to the remote box, and SSH says, hey, are you sure you want to connect? And we have to acknowledge this. And now we are being prompted for the password because we still don't have our key on the other side. Now the pub key user the first time connects to the remote box to show you that this here just happens on the first login. I log out again and log in again, and now you see the password prompt comes immediately without this acknowledging of the remote box. What happened was on the first connect, if you look in the SSH folder from the user, this known hosts file was created and the remote box was entered into this file. So now the SSH client on the box knows the remote box, and this is why now we are no more prompted for acknowledging the fingerprint of the remote box, because it's now entered in this known hosts file. Okay, we are connected to the remote box, and one way would be now to put this public key, this user's public key, manually into okay, we still don't have the SSH folder here. We could do that manually, mkdir SSH, and then touch a file, authorized keys in there, and the public key needs to be in this file. But we have a command for that. I'm logging out again on the local box, and there's a command ssh-copy-id. What does this all for automatically for us? What's that? ssh-copy-id to the remote box. We are prompted for the password again, one last time. And now you see here number of keys added is 1. So the key was added on the remote side. Now try logging in the machine with just SSH and check to make sure that only the keys you wanted were added. So SSH. And here we go, we are connected without being prompted for a password. That's it. And now you find here the SSH folder was created, and here this authorized keys file was created. And in this file is exactly, I go back again to the local box and cut on the local box the same, the public key. And this is exactly the same. This was just copied over to the remote box, and we're getting authenticated now using this public key. You can control the behavior of the SSH daemon on the server side. I connect once more. The daemon can be configured by controlled by this file. It's ssh-config, and in here you have very much you have many settings to harden your box. You can change the port the service is listening on, so the default SSH port is 22. You may change it. You can change the listen address, the IP address is listening on. You can control what keys are used, so from what ciphers, and you can control the logging. You can control if a root can log in and such stuff. Here at the end you find permit root login. This way you can harden your system a lot, that root won't be allowed anymore to log into the box directly. Then you have to use another user like this pub key user to log in, and then you can configure a sudo user, and the other users have also sudo to the root permissions. That hardens your server a lot. And here you can switch the password authentication off. If you just switch this to no, then no more password authentication, no more user will be able to log in using a password. Then you must ask someone with the permissions to do that, to put your public key from the new user in here in this home directory into this authorized keys file. So it's a very interesting file to harden your box, and you can enter IPs as well, that just special IPs, separate IPs will be allowed to connect to the box. And if you need information about this file, you can find it in the man page, ssh-d config. Everything is in here. That's it. Now you know how you can get on a box using SSH without password, without being prompted for a password. Hope this helped, and have a good time.